welcome to the Team Lawson podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Theresa, and we're millennials and we're making it.
On our channel, we discuss all the topics that meet within the intersection of millennial marriage and special needs parenting. Today, we will be discussing attaining special needs services. We're going to talk about all the service offered, how to get those services. We also will provide a link to a PDF with all the information. And you don't have to have a kid with special needs to share it with somebody who does.
So before Macy was actually diagnosed as on the autism spectrum. We thought we only had private insurance. We had Medicaid, but we had qualified for it out of financial necessity. And I didn't re-enroll when open enrollment came around in October or November, whenever it is. So I just assumed since Michael was working and we had private insurance, we didn't have Medicaid anymore. So when we finally did get Macy diagnosed, we thought we were going to be having to pay our full deductible before our insurance would cover services. And our full deductible was $13,000 plus. It was a little more than that. And then after the deductible, the insurance would only cover 80%. We'd have to come out of pocket for 20%. Just to give it perspective, we easily run up on our insurance $30,000 to $40,000 of services for the year. So it's quite a lot. So I applied for Medicaid, and then I was denied, but because we already had Medicaid, and so they sent me the cards in the mail. So it was a huge relief for us. And so as I went through the process, I was continually reminded that I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing next. Like, I would just haphazardly fall upon information and places to go. And so the goal of this is to give you the steps so you know what to do first, next, and last when it comes to getting all of the things that your child will need from private services and public services within the school system. Make sense?
All right, so let's go over the steps. So step one, you need to get a diagnosis from a specialist.
Yeah.
This is the most important step. A diagnosis allows you to qualify for Medicaid, even with the higher income. So when applying for services, the first question usually asked is, what is the child's diagnosis? And second question is, who is the child's doctor?
Right. So some things to consider when you're doing step one. If your child was diagnosed at birth, this step does not apply to you. So like Down syndrome, things like that you can get Medicaid services for your child for, like you already have the ball rolling on that. So you can skip this step. This is mainly for developmental disorders like autism or physical conditions or illnesses that develop after birth when the child is older, sometimes around 2 or 3 years old. If your child already has Medicaid out of financial necessity, you can see a specialist sometimes with your Medicaid and have your Medicaid pay for it. Just know that you may not get to see the specialist that you want. In Baton Rouge, there are no pediatric neurologists that accept Medicaid. There are only 2 in the entire city. So we had to use our private insurance for that, even though we had Medicaid, which meant we had to pay some out of pocket. And if there is a specialist that does accept Medicaid, know that there is probably going to be a waiting list. Sometimes as long as there's going to be a waiting list anyway, but know that there will be a waiting list. With private insurance or Medicaid, you may be immediately directed to, especially if your child is younger, like 2 or 3 years old, you may be immediately directed to an early intervention program. In Louisiana, it's called Early Steps. That's just kind of the default thing that they do. If you can go, but you can also ask for a second opinion and still go so that you can get a diagnosis, because it's easier to do anything else once you have that diagnosis, whatever the condition is. And patience is key when it comes to this. Even if your you find it easy to get the practitioner or the doctor to get the diagnosis that you're looking for, it's going to take time. We ended up going to see a nurse practitioner who is works in Macy's pediatric neurologist office. She did the initial diagnosis of autism spectrum disorders for Macy, and then it wasn't until 2 months later that we were able to see the pediatric neurologist. And it's still like that today. Like, if I were to go to make an appointment for Macy at her pediatric neurologist, as great as she is, because there are only 2 in Baton Rouge, they see all the kids who see pediatric neurologists in Baton Rouge. This is the capital city of our state. So 2 months. I had to do it 2 months. And we see her twice a year, so I have to do it 2 months in advance to be able to see her.
All right, so step 2, apply for Medicaid. If your child already have it, doesn't already have it, excuse me, apply for it anyway. If you think you make too much money, still apply.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt to still apply. Medicaid is not only income-based, and there are tons of different Medicaid eligibility groups. There are also those who are deemed medically needy, and that only means they have a higher income, but they have an even higher need. So more info will be in the link in the description. We'll have a free PDF for you guys.
Yeah, so there's a Medicaid Gov website that lists, it's pretty extensive. It lists all the different things. But the easiest thing to do is just go and apply. And just some other considerations when you're applying. Qualifications for Medicaid vary from state to state. There are all these medication eligibility. English. Say it again. Eligibility groups. There are all these groups, but depending on whether your state accepted the Medicaid expansion that was offered by the federal government, it depends on which groups will be able to qualify in which state. And you also need to go to your state's Medicaid website to apply, even though it's Medicaid is a federally funded program. You will need your taxes and your pay stubs, Social Security cards, just all of your information for everybody who lives in the household. And applying is going to be frustrating, time consuming. Pretty much anything you do to get services is going to be a little bit frustrating and a lot of it time consuming. Just know when you do qualify, each state qualifies different services. We live in Louisiana. Everything is qualified for Macy's autism services. So ABA, speech therapy, and OT are all qualified. If we were to move to Texas, which we would not do, ABA is no longer qualified.
If they did have it,
we still wouldn't move to Texas because they have all the corona.
After corona. And
just to keep in mind, for qualification for Medicaid based on medical needs, sometimes it's qualified that the diagnosis be something that is lifelong. And even if the diagnosis for something that is lifelong, sometimes it may be also necessary for the diagnosis to be a year old. So that's why it's important to go ahead and get the diagnosis first, so that by the time your child is done with all the waiting lists for centers, that the Medicaid insurance will be established. I forget the words. Go ahead.
Step 3, keep your private insurance. As of today, you can still have private insurance and Medicaid.
I don't know if that's going to change too, so go ahead and apply now.
But trust us, you will need both to pay for the services, because they can get super expensive.
Yeah.
First, your private insurance will be applied to any services or appointments. Next, Medicaid will be used to apply towards your deductible or any services your insurance doesn't cover.
And that's pretty much it for step 3. There's really no other special considerations. But before we get on to step 4, let me say this. This information is what I wish I knew when I first started applying for services for Macy 3 years ago. And it is literally taken me 3 years to get all of this information. So to be able to get it in one spot, to have a handy PDF is going to be so helpful for tons of parents. I know that it is, and I'm going to share it with everybody that I know because I know that it's totally going to help them. So what we ask of you is like this video, share it, share the link for the PDF especially so that they can get this information. You don't know who on your Facebook friends list, who in your contacts, in your email contacts is going to need this information, and when. We didn't know we were going to need it, and when we needed the information, it wasn't there. I can't Google right now and find a list where all of this information and the order it's supposed to go in is. And so it's particularly helpful for me.
Yeah, share with somebody you know who has a kid with special needs. And it's not just for kids with autism. It's
Right.
so broad of
Right.
disabilities.
And you don't have to just do it when they're little. It's not too late if your kid is 15, 16 years old.
All right, so which brings us to step number 4, research services and get on every waiting list.
And this is something we didn't do. We put all our eggs in one basket, and that's probably not a good idea.
Don't put your eggs in one basket.
No.
Probably more than one place is offering services for your child's needs. Check to see what insurance the provider will accept and get on every waiting list. This will help you see what services are available in your area.
Some things to consider when doing step 4 and researching these services and applying for services. You'll probably have to do another evaluation for each type of service that your child is going to need. So if Macy has ABA, center-based ABA, speech and OT therapy, and that's center-based. And so she had to do an evaluation for each one of those therapies after she was evaluated by two specialists and her pediatrician for autism. So she was evaluated by her doctor at her checkup. We went to the nurse practitioner. We went to a pediatric neurologist. We went to the Center for ABA. We went to the Center for OT. We went to the Center for Speech Therapy. That's 6 evaluations. Just a heads up. Why all of this stuff? So the center wants to see if your child meets the criteria for coming to their center, and then where they would fall. Like, what needs would your child need, and do they have space for them so they can see how long they're going to be on a waiting list if they're going to be on a waiting list. I have never heard of a child going into the center and immediately starting therapy without waiting for a little while. We had a really short wait because it just happened that when Macy was diagnosed and being evaluated, the center that she ended up going to was doubling their program at the time. So they just sucked up the waiting list really quick. But that is not the case. We waited 2 months. She was diagnosed in September by the nurse practitioner. In October, she started speech therapy and OT, and in November she started APA, and she was going all day. That is not the norm. It normally takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months, and that is the norm. So that's why it's good to go ahead and get the diagnosis, because that could extend it longer. If you go to the center, get the evaluations, and they're like, oh, but we need the diagnosis now. And also they want to give you something to do while you wait. Like I said, you'll be waiting for 6 to 12 months for services to start primarily. You can try to find a shorter wait within your city, but that's just kind of going to be the norm. Medicaid will pay for it too. So anything, just a frank discussion about money and Medicaid. Medicaid pays for the bare minimum. So many centers, not all centers will, or service centers will take Medicaid. And the ones that do, whatever Medicaid will pay for, they will require as administered to the center, just so they can break even. It's really not to be a hassle, but in order to protect the greater good and continue to stay open, they have to be able to bill for whatever Medicaid will allow them to bill for. And that is helpful if you have private insurance, because you get to get covered for all of your private insurance and all of Medicaid. And it's also helpful for those children who only have Medicaid. So just kind of bear in mind that there's a lot of extra stuff that you're going to have to do once you get into applying for a center.
So again, apply for Medicaid. I would rather have the bare minimum of $13,000 paid than to be paying the full $13,000.
Yeah.
Apply. Even if you had a higher income, apply.
Yeah.
So, get your another step. Get your child evaluated by the school system.
And I almost forgot about this. This is totally separate from a private center, and this is something that Michael reminded me of when we were putting this together.
So, even before your child starts kindergarten, they may be eligible for services with the school system. Normally, at age 4, a child in an early intervention program or with a developmental diagnosis can qualify for speech therapy or other services. Your child will have to do an evaluation for each service, but they may be done all at the same time.
Yeah, so the good thing about the school system is they offer the same therapies that private centers do. Macy has speech therapy 2 or 3 times a week, and they also do in-class therapy, but the school system will only offer speech therapy once a week. So even if you do go to the school system, do private therapy as well. But you're going to have to do therapy, an evaluation for all of those therapies. So they don't do ABA in the school system, but because that's considered a medical therapy. But speech, OT, and assisted physical education, APE. APE is covered. They'll do a psych evaluation. There'll be a psychologist there to see where the child is developmentally. And with our school system, they did it all in the same room, which was really helpful. And so it was just a one-day thing instead of us coming back for each of those therapies. But to be very frank, school systems are political juggernauts where nepotism abounds. Shamelessly name drop. So if you know somebody who works up there, just casually mention while you're there. If you have mention your favorite teacher. If you know somebody who works at the school board office, if you know somebody, be as polite and as friendly as you can, because you never know who the person in the room knows, or if you know somebody who's going to affect your child's evaluation. The people who wrote Macy's initial IEP were different than the people who wrote the report for Macy's initial evaluation, or different than the people who did the initial evaluation. So there were about 20 people who had a hand in Macy's plan of care or her IEP for the school system. Not 20, 15. That's still a lot, 15 people. And some of them I did not meet face to face. So talk. Be conversational. And then ask the people that you do meet in the system all sorts of questions. Tell them about the issues that you're having with your kid. They may know some services that are not involved in the school system that could be free to the public, like socialization activities. They have a lot that are offered by different nonprofit organizations that could be free. Camps in the summertime, which are hard to get special needs kids into. Ask questions. Think about it. The people who are working at the school board are either currently or have been teachers. And teachers are there to teach you what you need. And so they don't mind doing it. Just ask. And know that some of the services, especially for pre-K, can be done in home. Macy didn't go to pre-K, so her speech therapy, she had a teacher come to the house twice a week. She had an OT therapist come to the house once a week, and an APE teacher come to the house once a week until she was in kindergarten. And then she went to a pre-K to go see a speech therapist in a group setting. And then it's good for these evaluations, anything that you're doing for your child, if both parents go. But if both parents can go, I would recommend that for the evaluation, you at least take somebody with you, because not only are you getting a ton of information, but it's emotional. Like, I can remember just being just a bundle of nerves and emotions, and it's hard to remember stuff, really important things, when you're emotional.
Which brings me to the next step. Discuss what's going on with your boss. So, like I said, with me, I got a lot of favor from my bosses when I let them know what was going on.
Yeah. And
Like
you
when
had
they
a
had
coworker
appointments.
too who had an
Yeah.
autistic child, so they kind of
So
knew what was
they
going
kind of
on.
understood.
And went to
so-
the same center as Mason.
Yeah. So you will most definitely need time off for all these evaluations. So work something out with your boss. Even if say you do shift work, they have I don't know if all jobs do it, but the ones I've been on, they have swap sheets. So you may get a coworker that you can swap. He might work a night and you might work a day.
Mm-hmm.
Swap with him. That way you can go to an appointment and you can just go to work at night and you're not missing your money.
Right.
So this is not the year to plan a Disney vacation.
You're going to need to use that time.
Yes. Be open and honest with your boss. Do not get fired. Do not go to your boss and say, Team Lawson said to do this. No, because we cannot save your job. Talk to your boss. Be honest with him. Don't lie. Try to ask in advance for the time off if you can.
Some things to consider about step 6. There are some appointments and orientations that might not be obvious, or you might not know until after you finish one step of the process. So let your boss know ahead of time. This is all that I know, but I'm pretty sure some other stuff is going to come off. Just know I'm not trying to put y'all in a bind and let you know last minute. I want all my shifts to be covered, and I want to be able to work as well. After your child is in therapy, you may need to adjust your arrival and departure time from work. Therapy is not school. So I talked about how Macy, when she started, she didn't start full day center therapy until 2 months after evaluation. And then she also had therapy at home. So for the first a month and a half that she was in therapy, she would literally just go for a half a day, and then she would and then there were days where she had therapy at the house too. So adult has to be there at the house with the child, and somebody had to be there to pick her up. Also, there are half days, parent progress meetings, phone and video conference, extra doctor's appointments. Macy got out of school at noon every Wednesday.
Yep.
Because that was her school schedule. Parent progress meeting. We met with Macy's ABA therapist, her BCBA. All these acronyms. We met with Miss her BCBA for progress meetings every other a week. So there's something I had to let my boss know. And I would forget these things. Thankfully, I have such a gracious boss. It was literally on Wednesday, on the first Wednesday of school, and her principal sent out an email, was like, don't forget, you got to pick up your kids at noon. Totally forgot I had to pick up my kid at noon. And sometimes you could do phone and video conferences at work. But if you're open and honest about all the things that you're going through, most bosses are really open. Some aren't, though. And that's good to know up front. If you let them know what's going on, I had to quit a job. And it wasn't the job's fault at all. I got into the job and I realized what I needed to do and what at the job and what I was going to have to do for my child. There was no real way for me to work it out and be flexible with it. And so I had to give my 2 weeks notice, and I work part-time now because there are so many extra things that I have to do for my child. So it's something to consider. Oh, there's more. Also, the center may require parent counseling. So there was we had 7 weeks. There was an initial meeting where everybody was required to go. Me and Michael had to go with Macy. They the counselor, I think Jenny was at LMFT, a licensed marriage and family therapist. And so she kind of got a feel for all of us, got to see Macy, got to talk to mom and dad, got to see how we interacted with our child. And The next 6 weeks were given us parenting strategies. It was not required that both of us go. Michael only missed one session though. And it's great if both of you can go, because that information is key, and because especially men and women hear differently, like different things are important, and so but normally together we can remember most of it, but know that that is super hard to do. We were really thankful, and even our LMFT was like, it's rare that she sees both parents. A lot of times it's a grandparent that has to go because parents work, but know that that's something else that you may have to consider when you're talking to your boss.
So step 7, get on the waiver services waiting list. Waiver services are services that are non-medical but are essential to prevent institutional or nursing home care. It covers things like personal care and home modifications. It is paid for by Medicaid. That's why you need to apply. It's paid for by Medicaid. If you qualify for Medicaid and have long-term illness, you may be eligible for waiver services.
So here's the thing. Waiver services were initially designed basically to save the country and each state money by keeping people out of a nursing home and keeping youth or young adults out of institutional centers. That often happens with adults and children with severe physical or developmental disabilities. It did happen before, and so the idea is to bring the care into the home so these people can stay at home because it's cheaper. So it's not necessarily to make your life easier, but it can. And it's not going to cover all. It's not going to cover everything that you would need for your child, but it's something, and it can be really helpful, especially those children with severe illnesses or developmental disabilities.
Go apply.
You apply for Medicaid services in a different way for every single state. You can go to the site that I found, MedicaidWaiver.org, and it has a list for each with each state in alphabetical order. You click on your state and it'll tell you all the waiver services that apply, how to get in the waiver services, and it also tell you how long the waiting list is for each state. For most states it's like 7 to 10 years. For Louisiana, the waiting list is over 10 years. You'll have to probably do an evaluation to see where on the waiting list you'll be. Macy was considered in the lowest urgency of need, so we'll have like a 14-year wait. We're in year 12 of that right now, but the link that you can find that information at for your state will be on the free PDF, and the link for the free PDF will be in the description.
Alright, and so step 8, apply for other Medicaid funded services. Do y'all hear the repeated apply?
Yes. So the gateway to all of these services a lot of the time is Medicaid. And so that's why that's step number 2. And the gateway to Medicaid is to get a diagnosis. So make sure that you apply. You can pay for these services out of pocket. I work for a provider for waiver services and LTPCS and EPDST services, which we're going to talk about next. It's kind of expensive. Like, the budgets for these people are expensive. So, yeah. We have a few people that can pay out of pocket, but normally they're not paying out of pocket for the amount of services that the waiver clients are getting. But what about those other Medicaid funded services?
All right, so for those who will be on the waiting list for over 10 years, like us, Medicaid funds other services, so don't get discouraged. First, there's the LTPCS, or long-term personal care services for disabled adults and elderly. So there are programs for adults and the elderly. Then there's the EPDST, early periodic screening, diagnosis, and treatment. Finally, there are non-profit services funded by Medicaid.
So LTPCS and EPTSD services are not automatic, but you do have to be on the waiver list. When I call for EPDST services, there's kind of like a budget for it in your Medicaid plan. You can call Medicaid and get all the specifics for it, but you don't need to bog your brain down with it. When I was looking for personal care services for Macy in the home to be with her after school and before school, the first thing they asked me was, are you on the waiver list? And because they asked that because the waiver list is what you want to get, and that would be like the first thing that you would qualify for, but everybody's going to be on the waiting list. So, non-profits, to get EPDST services is different for every state as well. So EPDST is what's for kids. And it covers the screening and stuff like glasses and dental stuff like that. But it also covers therapy services and PCA services, so personal care services. For those services, the parent has to be with the child. So this is not a nanny. Like, you're not going to be able to use these Medicaid funds to hire a nanny to come to your house and sit with your child without you being there. Waiver services, you can do that. Waiver services, you can either hire someone or you can go to a company that provides workers and request someone there and hire somebody to come pick your child up from school or sit with your child at the house. Not from EPDST. And you can also get these personal care services from nonprofits funded by Medicaid. Why they have this in 3 different avenues, waiver service, EPDST, and Medicaid, instead of just funding waiver fully so the waiting list isn't so long, I have no idea. But I'm just telling you how they do it. Now, there's not a federal database for nonprofits funded by Medicaid, and they don't all offer the same thing. It can change from state to state or city by city. They're nonprofits, so they're normally not super, super huge. The one that we work with provides home modification. It provides PCA services or personal care services, and it provides a stipend for children. As long as the funds are there. And they all have some oversight, so we have to do monthly updates and they have to go see Macy's Face once a year. But there are waiting lists for all of these services. So as you do one thing, go ahead and follow through with the next thing. Eventually you will get to some services. It wasn't until we were 2 years in that we were able to get qualified for PCA services for Macy, and once we realized the stipulations, she's a little bit too young for it right now anyway, so we'll wait a little while. And that's it for our services, our checklist. Please share this with anyone that you feel like, or just share it in general if you feel like this information could help anybody that you may know. It has helped us to be able to kind of put it down in order, and I'm sure it will be helpful to someone else.
And also, if you're a person who needs the services for the 10th time, go and apply. It will not hurt to apply. All they can tell you is yes or no.
Yeah. So don't forget, it's our goal to create a community that's both inclusive and encouraging. You can find all of our content on YouTube and on Facebook as Team Lawson, on Instagram as Team Lawson 225. Our email is teamlawson225@gmail.com, and our Google phone number is 504-252-0531. That's 504-252-0531. Send us any other questions. If there are information that you feel like we may have left out, call us, email us, leave us a message. We'll be glad to help you in getting the information that you need, if there's anything that we can do, or just direct you in the right place. So if you
also if there are any topics you would like to talk about, we can also do that for you. Just make sure you put them in the comment section, and we'll definitely try to address them. But Sister Lawson, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How are we doing together as working as a team?
Thanks for cooking dinner. We're doing really well. Thank you for cooking dinner.
See, I'm getting better.
He is. I appreciate it. I didn't eat much of it, but I did taste it. It was good. I'm trying to lose weight, so.
We're both trying to lose weight.
I'm trying harder. It's facts. What am I doing that's quite helpful, babe?
Just coaching me through cooking. You know what I'm saying? Making sure I'm not burning the house down.
That's great.
We're using real teamwork.
Real teamwork. But he cooked by himself tonight because I had to go run errands that I didn't actually accomplish. One thing you could do better? Don't be so grumpy.
I'm not. I'm listening.
No, you were being grumpy earlier. Don't be so grumpy.
My bad. I mean, I'm working
Old
on
man grumpy sometimes.
it. I'm working on it. Just be more patient with me.
Okay. That's very... No, you've done patient.
No.
No.
When I said patient the first time, I was just talking about things in general. I'm talking about being more patient with me when I'm grumpy. Just,
I think that's a cop out.
That's not a cop out.
That's the only thing you have to say. Be patient. I am not.
I said be patient with me.
That's the same thing.
That's not saying be perfect. I'm saying be patient with me. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes when I'm grumpy, you can be short fused. So I'm just saying be patient with me. I'm not trying to be grumpy. I get grumpy, especially if I haven't had enough sleep, America. I am grumpy.
Our child was having a rave last night in her room, all night rave.
So I mean,
just insane.
I know I'm not the only one when you don't get enough sleep, and she the same way.
But nobody in the house got enough sleep.
I know
we were tired.
But that's why
Macy was tired.
America, that's why I said I'm working on it. Like I'm working on that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not perfect either. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm working on the flaws.
You almost finished with this monologue.
Yes, that's why I'm working on the flaws that I have, so I can be a better husband and a better man, America. You know what I'm talking about?
You are not Bernie Mac.
I'm not trying to be Bernie Mac.
That's what it just seemed like.
I'm being Mike Lawson.
Anything else? Don't forget to check out the link to the PDF in the description. Let us know if you have any questions. Share this video and like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.
God bless you.